A very cool and glossy good morning to everyone. Today we are starting once again with the video number 2 of Political Science, class 12, lesson number 1, Challenges of Nation Building. So, dear learners, in our last video we had discussed about the prime challenges before independent India. On the eve of 15th August 1947, there were major 3 challenges before India. Okay, we had discussed them in detail. We will be discussing them in detail in consequent chapters. In chapter number 1, we will mainly focus on challenge number 1, that was unification of the nation, integration of the nation. Okay, setting up of a united nation, a organized nation. Clear? So, in last video we had also discussed the process of partition. I had cleared you about the two nation theory, which was proposed by Muslim League. It was the basis of the partition of the country. Clear? I had also told you in last video about the process of partition. Okay, we are beginning with that only. Okay, we are starting with that so that flow could be continued. Clear? You all know that India's partition, India and Pakistan's partition was on the basis of Muslim majority areas. All those Muslim majority areas which, just a minute. Okay, clear? So I have told you that on the basis of Muslim majority, Pakistan and Hindustan were created. Okay, half of the Pakistan was in the west of India and rest of the Pakistan was in the east of India. East Pakistan is presently known as Bangladesh. In 1971 it got separated from rest of Pakistan. Clear? West Pakistan is still existing. It is presently Pakistan. Okay, Islamabad is its capital. Clear? So, in the last video I have told you that these two zones were the Muslim majority zones. Okay, these areas were having the maximum of the Muslim population, and that's why it had been decided that they would make up Pakistan. Where now, what was the problem? Problem was that these two areas were having a significant, a good number of non-Muslim population as well. Non-Muslim population means either Hindus or Sikhs or Parsis or maybe Christians. Okay, though Parsis and other communities were very less in number, but maximum Hindus were there as non-Muslims. So what happened? Muslims started targeting the non-Muslims. They started saying that these zones belong to Muslims and therefore non-Muslims should leave. Okay, they started forcing them, they started attacking them, they started looting them, they started targeting them. Clear? Once again, I want to bring in your notice one thing. In last year, chapter number 10, Political Science 11th, you had studied top-down policy. Please recall. Top-down policy. What is top-down policy? What does this mean? Just recall. Lesson number 10, Development, Political Theory, 11th standard. You have studied top-down policy. What does that mean? It simply means topmost leaders, topmost bureaucrats of the country decided that what would be the policy on the ground floor without any kind of discussion on the people at the floor, people at the lowest level. Okay, means in a room, leaders, bureaucrats decided that which area would make up the territory of Pakistan, which areas would remain with India. Okay, Lahore would go with Pakistan, Amritsar would remain with India. Okay, who decided it? Leaders, bureaucrats. Okay, considering that this area belongs to Muslim majority, so it should go with Pakistan, and this area belongs to Sikhs or Hindus, it should go with Hindustan. Okay, clear? That was okay. Chalo. Okay, but the thing was the shifting of the population or the problem of minorities was not handled in a proper way. Both of the nations, maybe Pakistan or the Hindustan, they had got independence recently. Okay, recently they had set up. Okay, and now just on the second day they had to deal with the problem of migrants, problem of refugees, problems of the tragic transfer of population. Okay, on the both side of border, either in India or in Pakistan, people from the opposite communities were being targeted. Okay, Hindus started troubling Muslims in the Indian border. Okay, and likewise Muslims started targeting the non-Muslims in Pakistan border. Okay, so now attacks were there. Okay, loots were there, rapes were there, killings were there. Okay, so now the opposite communities started setting, tragic transfer of population started taking place. Okay, lakhs of refugees started migrating from Pakistan to Indian borders. Okay, in every possible manner, whatever they could. Clear? And maximum of the times, you should consider the time of 1947, maximum of the times on food. Okay, now one more thing, just consider. Okay, it's very simple, and I'm 100% sure that I'll make you learn this whole thing, whole topic right here. You just consider that if you are sad to cross the border at once, and you have to save your life, you have to save your family members, and you are supposed to cross the borders right at the moment, right at the 11th hour, what would you do? Would you be able to collect your precious belongings? No. Would you be able to sell your property at once? No. So what would happen? You have to rush, is it? So all those who were very rich in Pakistan, and they started for the Hindustan. When they reached Hindustan, they found themselves totally poor. Okay, and after reaching to India, also they didn't get settled at once. There were many problems for number of months, even number of years. Many of these people who migrated from Pakistan to India or from India to Pakistan, they lived their life in refugee camps. Just for a better understanding, I want to make you recall, if you have visited Jaipur and if you go to the Jaipur bus stand, okay, that area is called Sindhi Camp. Why it is called Sindhi Camp? Why it is called Sindhi Camp? It was the area where Sindhi people who migrated from Sindh of Pakistan to India, okay, they were settled over there, they were provided refugee shelters, refugees were provided shelter over there. Okay, that's why this area is still known by the name of Sindhi Camp. Okay, so now just think, freedom for such people means what? Tragic transfer, loss of the property, okay, a great trauma, and after after crossing the border, okay, if they were lucky, after crossing the border safely, they didn't find that someone was ready to welcome them. Okay, they had to start from scratch. They had to start from zero now. They had to once again begin the whole thing over here. Okay, so by now I have cleared you that partition created a great trauma for those people who migrated from one side of border to the others. I'm not saying it was only with Hindus, it was with Muslims, it was with Sikhs, okay? It was with all, means everyone got troubled, okay? If Muslims targeted Hindus, likewise Hindus also targeted some of the Muslims. Okay, where on this Punjab area, Amritsar area, and especially the border areas, there were many reports in which many of the opposite community women were raped, targeted, abducted, kidnapped or forced to marry with abductor. Okay, this is really very, very tragic. Okay, such kind of incidents have been focused, have been portrayed very well in many of the movies, and they would touch your heart when you see these all things. Okay, clear? So in that I wanted to give you understanding that how partition took place, how partition happened and what were its implications. Is it okay? Up to now I have cleared you what does the refugee means. Okay, all those people who migrated from one side of border towards another, okay, they were being provided shelter. They were provided shelter. Okay, and such shelter camps were called refugee camps. Okay, here they lived for months or sometimes for years. Okay, clear? Now we move to the next thing.
किसने दी देखो वो दे दे मेरे को देखूं क्या करा रही है
Just a minute. So now we go with next topic, that is consequence of partition. So first consequence of partition was that, first consequence of partition was the most tragic and unplanned transfer of population. Clear? Okay, Muslims started targeting the Hindus in the Pakistan border, likewise Hindus started targeting the Muslims in the border areas. Is it clear? Second consequence was that those people, those communities which had been living together for centuries, now they started observing each other as enemies. Okay, so the second consequence of partition was the religious disharmony or religious violence. People started observing each other on the basis of religion. Humanity had finished. On the name of the religion, people of one community killed another, maimed another, looted another, raped another. Third consequence of partition was that it was especially related to Pakistan. The third consequence of partition was that those people who didn't want to leave that land, those who wanted to continue with that country, were even forced to leave that country. Okay, clear? Especially Sindhis. Okay, they didn't wanted to leave, but they were forced to. Okay, they were forced either to convert their religion, either to leave the Hinduism, or to be Muslims, or to leave the country at once. Okay, so that was the third consequence. Okay, so Fourth was as obvious violence. Loot, rapes, and totally loss of administration in both sides of borders. Okay, that was the fourth consequence. Clear? Thousands of women were killed, maimed, looted, raped, or abducted, and they were forced to marry with the abductor, forced to convert themselves with the religion of the abductor on both sides of borders. Okay. Clear? Lakhs of these refugees, those people who were lucky to cross the border, they started living in the refugee camps. They for not only for weeks, not only for months, sometimes they lived in these refugee camps for years. Okay, for such people, partition, for such people, freedom just mean loss of livelihood, loss of the original centers, okay, and total challenge in their life. Okay, they had to start once again from scratch. Okay, clear? So this was all about the consequences of partition. Now we are going to shift to the next topic. Okay, that is related with the unification of the country. We'll deal with it. That is integration of princely state. Okay. So dear learners, now we are going to study about the integration of princely states. Okay, this is totally related with the unification of the country. Clear? Which was the first and foremost challenge before the independent India. Before starting that how princely states were merged, I want to let you know that British India was divided in two kind of states, two kind of administrations were there. Two kind of states were there. First, just a minute. In British India, there had been two kind of states. One states who were in direct control of Britishers. Okay, and second were those particular states which were under the control of princes. Princes here means kings, queens, nawabs. Okay, for all these we will be directly referring to princes. Okay, now these were not 100% sovereign. Princes were not 100% sovereign in their area. Okay, they were also controlled by Britishers, but some of the states were totally ruled by Britishers, whereas in others, princes had internal autonomy. External matters were being dealt by Britishers. Okay, for example, Jodhpur, Jaipur, Hyderabad. Okay, many more. Okay, how many princely states were there? 565 princely states were there. Okay, on the eve of 15th August 1947, the small or big princely states were totally 565. Out of that, you would surprise 27 were in Rajasthan. Okay, clear? Once again, I want to make you recall that in British India, there had been some states which were totally in the control of British, whereas some of the states were controlled by princes. Okay, nawabs, queens. Okay, clear? Okay, these princes, nawabs or queens were having internal autonomy. Okay, they were dealing with the internal affairs of that state, whereas the external matters were being dealt by Britishers. Is that okay? For example, the Maharaja of Jodhpur, the princely state of Jaipur, the state of Hyderabad, the state of Kashmir. Okay, Maharaja Hari Singh was ruling in Kashmir at last. Okay, so in totally in number there had been 565 princely states on the eve of 15th August 1947. Clear? So now what was the problem? Let us understand. on 15th August 1947. On the basis of two-nation theory, already India had been partitioned. One part was given to the Muslims, okay, on the basis of two-nation theory. Rest was with India, okay. Britishers also announced that these 565 princely states would also be free, would also be independent with the end of the rule of the British in India, okay. Britishers left three options with Britishers left three options with princely states. These three options were they can either have three options. Number one, was to join India. Second option was to go along to join Pakistan. And the third one was to remain independent. Once again, totally 565 princely states were there. Okay, out of these 565 princely states, all these 565 princely states were being provided three options: either to join India or to join Pakistan, or if they want that they didn't want to attach themselves either with India or Pakistan, they can be independent. They can remain totally sovereign. They can rule themselves. With the end of the British rule, they would be able to be independent. Okay, so this decision of the Britishers sparked a further multi-level division of the country. Okay, multi-level division of the country. Is that okay? There had been the probability of country's division in a great number of smaller states. Okay, why would Maharaja of Jodhpur join India? Why would Nawab of Hyderabad would go along with India? Why would not it be maintaining its own independence? Okay, this started happening. Okay, though Indian Home Minister at that time from the interim government, Sardar Patel, was pressing almost all these princes, all these Nawabs, queens to join India. There had been agreement between them. There had been a particular procedure regarding that. Okay, but this particular thing created or sparked a situation in which India could further disintegrate in a number of states. Okay, so you all could smell over here the policy of Britishers of further dividing India in a number of weaker, smaller states. So this was a major problem. Now, how did Indian government respond? Let us see. We will be observing Indian aspect over here. So this was the problem. Now we are going to learn the government's approach. How did government deal with it? Here, listen. Indian government would try at its level best to bring all the 565 states into Indian Union. Okay, clear? So what would they do? They had three options. They also had three options. Number one, they were ready. Indian government was ready to provide internal autonomy to states who merged themselves in Indian Union. Number 2, Indian government was ready to provide privy purse facility to the kings or the royal households. Let me clear it. First of all, we will discuss these two and then we will move ahead. Okay, so first was to provide internal autonomy to the states. Means Indian government was ready to recognize the internal freedom of these particular states. Especially, you can see the Kashmir issue. Okay, before 2019, Kashmir had been provided internal autonomy under the Article 370. Okay, that was a particular provision of the government's approach. Okay, in 1947. Clear? Means Indian government was ready to recognize the internal autonomy claims of these states who were ready to merge themselves with Indian Union. Means at internal level they would be free to run their administration. Clear? Second was, what would be the future of kings, queens, nawabs? Okay, so considering that Indian government was ready to provide privy purse facility to the particular kings, queens, nawabs. Okay, what is privy purse? Privy purse simply means the annual pensions and the right to hold the property. Okay, for these royal households, this was considered. Clear? So now the third was, what was the third approach? So third approach was the cause of national unity. You all know that for India it had become extremely important to unify almost all these states at once. Okay, it had become a prime cause. Otherwise, what would happen if any of the states which is being surrounded by other Indian states decides to go with Pakistan or decides to remain independent? That would be creating a problem for India forever in future, isn't it? Okay, means there could be the problem of infiltrators, there could be the problem of migrants, there could be problem of terrorism, there could be problem of other kinds. Okay, so it was most important for Indian administration to merge almost all these princely states in Indian Union so that India could be strengthened, India could be united, India could be organized and India could be strengthened. So the cause of national unity had emerged as an important factor in the unification of the country. Almost all these 565 princely states, may they be bigger, may they be smaller, it was very, very necessary to merge them in Indian Union. It was very, very necessary to bring all these princely representatives to make them ready to merge their states in Indian Union so that organized India, strengthened India could be made up. Okay, so that was the third part. Now, most important thing, so there had been three particular considerations in the government's approach. Now, our most important name, our most important person comes here who played an extremely important role in this all. That was the role of first Home Minister of India. That was the role of Sardar Patel in this. You all know Sardar Patel by the name of Iron Man of India. Okay, Sardar Patel was a man of determination. Okay, he played a very important role in bringing all these 565 smaller or big states in merging Indian Union. Okay, he played every possible solution to bring all these leaders on the merger agreement. Now let me clear you how it happened? Just a minute. Role of Sardar Patel in integration of princely states. First of all, why Sardar Patel? Because Sardar Patel was Home Minister of India at that time. Secondly, he was also Deputy Prime Minister at that time. Thirdly, he was the man of determination. Fourthly, he made a instrument of accession. Okay, let us understand this one, because all these points are very simple. This is one is very important. What was instrument of accession? It was simply an agreement letter, okay, in which princely states would be agreeing on some particular conditions for merging their states in Indian union. Likewise, Indian government would be ready to provide some of the facilities to the princes, okay, because they were merging their state in Indian union. Okay, what could be these? So, instrument of accession, you could consider it as agreement letter, simply. Instrument of accession, which had been provided under the guidance of Sardar Patel, was simply an agreement letter in which there were some certain conditions on which Indian Union was merging the princely states in Indian Union. Okay. From Indian government side, some of the princely states were provided internal autonomy. Some of the kings, maximum of the kings, were being provided the facility of privy purse, considering the size of the state. Okay. Thirdly, most of the princely states were also made ready by the Sardar Patel to join the democratic path. Okay, you could nowadays you could see Jyotiraditya Scindia, Madhavrao Scindia, Sundararaje Scindia, many of the other princes, queens from the royal family who are participating as the role of leaders, isn't it? From the royal family of Jodhpur, from the royal family of Jaipur, from the other royal households, you could see many of the princes performing as the democratic leaders. Okay, so this was something, okay, which was provided by Sardar Patel to bring in the monarchy towards democracy. Okay, here in Hindi there was a phrase that is Sam Dam Dand Bhed. Okay, this used to be a policy to make agree almost in a critical situation someone to bring on the agreement. Okay, Sardar Patel played every possible way to bring in almost all these states in Indian Union. Okay. So, on the eve of 15th August 1947, there had been 565 states. Okay, gradually up to 1955, almost all these states were being merged with Indian Union. A few states were creating problem for being united in India. Okay, so some of these particular states would be considered and we'll be learning them in detail. First one would be the case of merger of Hyderabad. Then we would be studying the Manipur's case. Okay, Kashmir's case would also be studied. Okay, so these are the three particular states we will study, and rest were very simple. They were just bring on simply providing some or other thing. They were being merged in Indian Union. Okay, so in our syllabus we will be considering Hyderabad's merger, Kashmir's merger, and Manipur's merger. Okay, we will be studying them in the next video. Thank you everyone.